Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking from Richmond Arden Chambers in London. Today I'm looking at a trio of books which I'm reviewing separately, but they all come basically from the same organisation. That's the Legal Action Group, the Access to Justice Charity, and Arden Chambers in London. The first one I'm looking at is Homelessness and Allocations, the Guide to the Housing Act 1996, Part 6 and 7. This book is now in a 10th edition. It's there. We'll look at it in a minute. It's been written by three people. That's Andrew Arden QC, Justin Bates and Toby Vanhegan. And it's available as a printed book, which is this one, and as an ebook. It's also got supplementary material, which is actually on the website, which is the lag.org.uk website, stroke ebooks. Excuse me. But this book itself, as I say, comes out of earlier editions. So the book and the other two in the series, all looking at welfare law and specifically at housing, are very important for 2017 with the changes that are happening. Elizabeth and I have given a title of our book review the following: an important updated edition of this useful work on the Housing Act. And that's exactly what you're getting. Let's look at the book first of all, because it's a heavy book. There we go. You see paperback. There's the spine. And there's the back. And there's a lot of stuff on the back. You'll notice on the front there's a little logo for Arden Chambers. Now you can see that there's a whole section which is the appendices at the back. It runs to over 1,000 pages, nearly 1,100 in fact. The back of the book has the index. It's by paragraph numbering, and you can see there's the index itself. Then you've got all the appendix of a lot of detail, huge amount of detail. That starts, the actual appendix starts there, Appendix A, on page 699. So page 700 up to nearly 1,100. You can see you've got a lot of stuff. It obviously has the statutes in which you need. It lists the appendices there, and then you've got the basic book itself. You can see the structure. You've got paragraph numbering at the sides, and you've got the footnotes. A lot of detail. Everything you would expect from Legal Action Group. There is the front of the book, and there's the bibliographical information about the authors, which you can see there. You can see that information there. And then that's the basic information about the book. Then there's quite a long background statement, which is the same for all three of the books that are being published. That's Homelessness and Allocations, Quiet Enjoyment, and the Manual of Housing Law. They've all got the basic same preface, which has been written by Andrew Arden, dated May 2017. You can see that there. Then you've got the contents section. Then you've got tables of cases, and a lot of cases, of course. Tables of statutes, obviously fundamental to this. And then after that you've got the SIs, which are listed as well. So there's a huge amount of information. And there's some European legislation. We're still getting plenty of that, and we will have plenty of that for some years to come, I'm sure, whatever happens, because it's still very much part of what we're doing. I did find the abbreviations very helpful, as normal. There's a lot of stuff which is abbreviated. And frankly, I can't remember them. I'm sure most people can't, so it's useful to have that. Then you've got the chapters, and you've got an index to the chapter, to each chapter. So you should be able to find things pretty quickly. I've always liked the way that LAG do this, because it actually does make it very easy. Then you see the book itself with the paragraph numbering and so on. There's another chapter. That's chapter 2. The provision is in outline. Right, there's the book. Let's hope it doesn't fall over. Now, what do we say about this? Because I've reviewed these books before. This is now in a slightly newer format, but in essence, these books are absolutely fundamental for your practice, and you've got to have them. You certainly should have them in your law library. You will find these books in court, which is why you need to know about them, because the judges will refer to them as well. Let me say this. The excellent collaboration between LAG and Arden Chambers provides us, as the practitioners, with some of the best resources available on the current legal market for welfare law. And I say that with no apologies to anybody, because in my view, they are the best. 3 new books have recently been added to the lists published by LAG, and we welcome them. This is the first, They're great additions, as I say, to the Chambers Library. There's Homelessness and Allocations, Quiet Enjoyment, and Manual of Housing Law, and I shall deal with those in a minute. But the new 10th edition of the Homelessness and Allocations title remains one of the best compact books in this area of welfare law since the first edition appeared in 1982, when it was known as the Homeless Persons Act. Now, as Andrew Arden writes in the preface, until the mid-1970s, the term housing law was in scant use, he says. He continues saying there was a term applied to a subdivision of planning law, on occasion merited a mention in landlord and tenant or local government. How times have changed in 2017 with this new edition, over 1,000 pages in total, and it's needed. And I have to say that I can remember that time well, because that's when I first started reading law. And of course I sat on a housing committee some 30 odd years ago when housing was seen in a rather different way from the way it is today. As an elected member, I was quite surprised at some of the things I saw. Mind you, I'm afraid things haven't changed that much in some areas. To get back to the review, this title, Homelessness and Allocations, was first published after the Housing Homeless Persons Act 1977 was introduced, giving new duties towards the homeless, which had come into force. Now, following the introduction of this legislation, the work has recorded and analysed development in this field of law, whilst Arden has contributed to and helped to shape its development, acting in cases up to and including the highest courts from the earliest days of the new law to the present time. So the book comes to us with a high legal pedigree indeed, and the 10th edition is up to date with what continues to be a large and most useful number of reported decisions. It includes the Homelessness Reduction Act 2017, plus its new prevention and initial help duties. And it gives us coverage of the separate development of homelessness law in Wales under the Housing Wales Act 2014 Part 2. Again, we have to look at the jurisdictions separately here, because we always think of England and Wales together, but this is where actually the two have separated. And it does offer us in addition assistance on the new and important Care Act 2014. Now, this regime unfortunately remains pitifully misunderstood in my view by many people, although the book does assist us greatly with an understanding of the legislation. And we're going to need to have a lot more of this, because at the moment there's a lot of very bad information out there which people are misunderstanding over that particular piece of legislation. Now, the excellent appendices, which make up quite a substantial part of the book, cover the key English legislative provisions in a consolidated form and principal guidance. And it's worth noting that Chapter 12 itself includes a useful set of precedents for the practitioner, just in case you need assistance in that area. The book remains, in my view, indispensable and essential reading for housing lawyers and advisors, local authority housing and homelessness officers, and housing associations seeking authoritative, accurate and accessible guidance on local authority duties and the rights of the homeless. And again, I do think that this should be on the table of every local authority housing office, because they should really have this information ready to hand, and it is actually a friend for them. Let me conclude by saying that the titles which the Legal Action Group give us do make our work as lawyers and advisors much easier. It's the same with the judiciary, though they're not going to say it quite in the same way, but I do know they are very grateful. And for practitioners, we remain very grateful to all people concerned for the continuing excellence of the service which is provided to us by these books in what is a fast-moving area of welfare law. So thank you to everybody concerned. Now, the law is predominantly stated as at the 30th of April 2017, although the authors have tried where possible to bring in things if necessary. Let's look at the book again. First of the series, there we go. Front, the spine, and then the back. There we go. It's a heavy book. The trouble with these books is they do, after a while, they do tend to split open a bit, I'm afraid, but there again, that's inevitable. The problem is that we're going to need new editions because of the changes in the law. This is This is the middle of the book. Discharge of homelessness duties. Paragraph, it's chapter 10, and it's the paragraph. So you see the structure, you can see the paragraph numbering, the footnotes, and the detail. And again, you can see quite quickly, this is actually looking specifically at some of the legislative measures. But before you know where you are, you immediately are getting into case law as well, because it is case law. The subject is very much case law rich. Can I thank Andrew Arden and all his people at the Chambers very much for taking this on board. I think this is an important book, and one of the three in the series which have come out in the summer of 2017. Very grateful to you for taking the mantle of responsibility for producing them, and good luck with the work that you do. Thank you to all. Bye bye.